Good morning. I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday, had some great meals, and we're thankful for everything. But it's time to get back to work. So this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to dimension your structure. And there are some key things that we must take into account, that we must remember, and that we must always transfer from one project to another. And one is how we dimension and what each one of these dimension lines tell us. The dimension lines, again, if you're looking at the screen, the dimension lines will be the horizontal lines that go from left to right, and the extension lines are the vertical lines that go up and down. Okay, first off is the three dimension lines that we have. Let's see. We got an update coming there. Let's pause that for a moment. But the three dimension lines, you have one dimension line which is 8 feet away from the furthest extent of the building. Okay, so you want to use the part of the building that sticks out the furthest to measure the distance of your dimension lines. So this line, this one that I'm looking at right now, that I'm circling with my cursor, that is the 8-foot line, and it tells you the overall dimension of the front of the structure. Okay, so right here it's 40 feet from left to right. The next line, which is the 6-foot line, it's 6 foot from the furthest point of the structure, and that one tells us what our major wall measurements are. Major wall measurements are, again, of course, the overall, but we're also taking into account any what we call major walls. Major walls are considered any walls that are a break in the overall length or width of the structure, such as this corner right here. That corner is marked at from here to here. It's at 20 feet. Okay, and then any interior walls that come in contact with the exterior wall, such as this one. So my first measurement is this section, and that is 20 feet. The next segment is 9 1/15, or it looks like 9 1 15/16 of an inch, and that is from this corner to this interior wall. Okay, and it's measured to the center of that interior wall. Notice how the exterior wall is measured to the exterior face, and the interior walls are measured to the center. All right, and then of course we carry that on further to the furthest left extent, overall extent of the building. So that would be 10 foot, 10 1/16 of an inch. Okay, and then there is the closest line, that is the 4-foot line. So it's 8 feet out here, 6 feet to this middle line, and then 4 feet to this line. It's closest to the structure. Again, it takes into account the full extent left and right of the structure and measures 2 doors and windows. So from the furthest right extent to the middle of this window, and of course all windows and doors are measured to the center. At least in this application they are, but it is 10 15/16 from the edge of the building to the center, and then 13 feet and 10 15/16 inches from there to the door right here. Okay, and of course when we do this, we're doing the doors and windows, we're only doing the exterior doors, not the interior doors. And then, of course, we carry on to the left here. We have from this line to this line, and you can look at the arrows, and then you will know what dimension that, say, like this dimension is talking about. So 10 foot 4 1/8 is between these two arrows. Okay, so that's from that first exterior door to the middle of the window, and then from the middle of that window back to the other side, the other extent of the front of the structure. Okay, so we have to remember those things. You know, overall, major walls, doors, and windows. Okay, so where was I? I don't remember. But anyway, we have to remember those things. All of this stuff, like these arrows and everything, are set when you set your dimensions, and we'll go through that as well. As far as your these gaps, that's one thing too that we have to also remember, that these gaps are between the object that they measure and the, you know, where the extension line actually starts, anywhere from 1/16 to 3/32 approximately. Well, actually not approximately. I think that's what these are actually set at. But I will show you here in just a moment how those are actually set. Okay, now what we're going to do before we actually get into doing this is go over our settings. So our settings are done up here in the annotation panel, just right up here in the ribbon on the annotation panel. And the way I'm going to set this is I'm going to click on annotation. I think I'm going to click on it anyway. And you can see these icons out to the left, and that basically tells you what you're setting, you know, what you are choosing to set. You can actually hover over each one, and this will be to set the text style, and that is for just writing plain old text, just paragraph type text and things like that. That's what the one that you would use to adjust. The next one is dimension style. Okay, this is the one I want to adjust, so I'm going to click. Actually, let's see, I'm not sure what happens if I click on the icon itself, and it does. It takes me right to where I want to go. I was going to show you that if you click here and then go and click down at the bottom where it says manage dimension style, that also takes you to the same place. Okay, so you just really have to click on the icon, and it takes you to this dialog box, and it shows you kind of in preview what your dimensioning style is going to look like. So what I'm going to do, what I do normally is there's two by default. There's two types of dimensioning that are already loaded in there, and that is annotative and standard. You can create your own dimension styles. You can have a complete list of these, and typically if you're doing a job and you're doing it correctly, you will have several different styles that you have created and loaded in there. But just for the sake of this class, I'm going to use the annotative, so I will click on the annotative. As you see, you can click between the two, but I'll click on the annotative and click to set current, and then I'm going to go into modify. Okay, so again, that modify button was right here. Okay, and I'm not sure what the default tab is going to be that you end up on. I'm not sure if this one is on text because that's the last one that I used, or if it just defaults to that one by itself. But anyway, this is where you would do some of the basic settings of your text. So the text for our dimensioning, I think it was already set at 1/8 of an inch. If it is not, you can set it for that. And I think there was actually another place that we used to set that. But anyway, there are some things that would change. Vertical, the text placement for vertical, would change that to above. Horizontal, the horizontal alignment, we change it to centered. And then the view direction, we change that from left to right. Basically what this does is any way that we twist our drawing, we're always looking at the dimensions and reading them from left to right. And then offset from dimension line. Now some of these, like this one right here, offset from dimension line, is already set at 3/32 of an inch, so you can just leave it just like that. Over here under the text alignment, I want it to be aligned with the dimension line. Okay, and that's what I think by default it might say horizontal. I don't remember. But those are some of the things that you want to set. Fit, there's nothing really to set there. Primary units, even though you are in architectural units already that you set down here when you started to draw, okay, you actually have to set it here as well. So you'll click on this and change that to architectural. Precision down to 1/16 of an inch is perfectly fine. I believe it is already set for that by default. And let's see, I think everything else is also set by default. This is the subunits factor. This is basically shows you how that it shows up. And let's say angular dimensions, decimal by degrees. Yeah, that's fine for that. You really don't have to work or worry about any of these other settings. If you go to lines, and again, I just really used the default line configuration. But the lines, you can change the color of the line, which I just have mine set by layer. I drew those on the exterior wall layer. It doesn't mean that you don't have to. Typically what you will actually do is you'll set a whole new layer for that, for drawing your lines or your dimension lines. So have a layer called dimension. And as you see, it's right now set color by block. Line type, all the line type and line weight is by block, which means it's going to follow whatever you have set for that particular block, which is done through the layer properties. None of this other stuff is really anything to worry about. You see here, you can adjust the extension line colors and types and everything else as well. Symbols and arrows, the next tab right here. First, closed, filled. Second, and these are just kind of by importance, I guess you would say. So far, everything that we do on here is going to be the closed filled arrow, unless we choose a different second or leader type. And then, of course, arrow size is adjusted right here. And just to show you what is under here, you probably remember that when we were drawing by hand, we were using these tick marks, the architectural tick or the oblique, as termination lines, basically to terminate our measurement. But here in the computer, I'm just using the default, which is the closed filled arrow. And that is pretty much it. See, text, and sometimes you might have trouble setting the text size, and we'll kind of work with that if that creates a problem. Sometimes it is. As you see right now, mine is grayed out, and I can't change it, so I don't recall if it was already like that or if I changed it like that. There is a way to change that, and you have to kind of play with it a little bit to get it to change. So if you have problems with that, let me know, and I will come and we'll try a few things to help you with that. And that's pretty much it. That's all of your settings. And primarily, I have used everything according to default. Just about everything according to default. And the next setting is the text subscript type. I'm not sure why I set that for subscript type. Subscript. Okay. Basically, I was setting up, I probably shouldn't have called it Subscript. I don't know why I named it Subscript, but there's probably a reason at the time. But this is where I changed my text style. As you see, my dimensions are this country blueprint right here. Okay, so I had set these up. Normally it comes annotative and standard. I set these two by myself. And you would set the country blueprint, and here's actually where you set the text size, right here where it says size, annotative, and basically it's based off of the annotative style. And then I put in here 1/16 of an inch for my text size. And that, of course, is set current at the moment. If you want to create a new text style, you just click on the new button right here, and that will give you a kind of a blank slate, and you would create a new font, or not create the font. You'd actually select from a long list of different fonts that are available, and change your paper text height and things like that. And I know I showed you text when we were back on the annotative, and I do not recall why. Let's see, modify. I think that it's grayed out right here because I'm using the annotative text, and I guess for some reason they don't want me to change that. But as you know, and as you can see, my text is not following that. It's following what I set in the text style selection here. Text style box, country blueprint, regular, and the text size of 1/16 of an inch. Okay. All right. So pause here, and then we'll go into the actual dimensioning phase. Okay, now let's figure out how we're going to actually place these dimensions. And we're going to do that again by using the linear dimension. I do not recommend using this one, which is an automatic. And what the automatic dimension does is, if I click on this drop down arrow under linear, here I can change from linear to aligned, angular, arc, radius, diameter, ordinate, jogged. Okay. This one is supposed to change between all of those automatically, but it doesn't always work the way that you plan for it to. So I always use linear. Of course, it might be better nowadays than it used to be just a few years ago. But I'm using linear, and you know, as I said, the first one that we're going to place is going to be 8 feet from the structure, and it's going to measure the overall dimension. So I'm going to start over here on the right, because that is the part of the house that extends furthest, and that's where I want to measure my 8 feet of distance from. Okay, and just kind of reference that geometry over there. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is, because I'm pulling this dimension line downward away from the house, I'm actually going in the y-axis direction. I'm not going anywhere in the x-axis direction. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to hold the shift button and type the @ symbol, and then it gives me an x-axis and a y-axis. That's what those two boxes are right now. Where it is highlighted in blue, that is my x-axis. So I'm going to type 0 there, and then I'm going to tab over to the y-axis, and I'm going to type a -8 feet. And that places that line 8 feet from the structure. Okay, so the next line is going to be is my major walls. So major walls again, I'm going to go to the end and start there. I'm going to go to this first break in the wall, go here, and then I'm going to do that same thing again. I'm going to hold the shift button and type the @ symbol, and then this one is going to be 0 in the x-axis, tab over to the y, and it's going to be a -6 feet. Okay, now I need to continue this dimension, so I'm going to hover over the dimension and click it so that I activate it, and then I'm going to hover over the blue grip at the far left side here and choose continue dimension, and that way it'll allow me to continue my dimensioning. And I'm going to find the center of this wall right in here, and then I'm just going to take it all the way to the edge right here. Okay, so now I've got all of my major walls dimension. Notice on the exterior walls, I went to the very face. I went to the exterior face and marked the faces. On the interior walls, I found the center of the wall and placed my line at the center of the wall. Okay, my next line is going to be my doors and windows. Again, it's going to start at the very end, and it's going to go to the center of my first window. Okay, so center right there, click, and then it's stretch. Again, I'm going to type @ and it's going to be 0 in the x-axis, tab over to my y-axis and do a -4 feet. Okay, now I'm going to activate it. I'm going to hover over the grip, choose continue dimension, and then continue with my doors and windows. Okay, one thing you can do on this to find the center is to actually draw a line. I probably should have included that in my my door symbol so that I can truly find the center of it. I'm just going to draw a temporary line for right now. Okay. Oops, and then go back here and activate that again. Hover, continue dimension. Now I have something I can lock onto. So I can find the exact center of that door. And then come over here and find the exact center of that window, and then take it all the way to the end again. And then hit your escape button. All right, so that is how a side should look. all three of those dimensions. Not to say that you might not need more at some point. After this, we're going to, swap around and do, the way I do it is I kind of rotate my drawing around. Okay, but when you do this, you have to realize that you just moved your Cartesian coordinate table also. So when it looks like you're moving in the X direction, you're really moving in the Y direction and things like that. Or you could just leave it the same, leave it just like this, and then just do your dimensioning this way. Again, linear, you don't want to get it overall on this side. Okay, stretch it out, and this one is going to be at 8 feet. That is the overall. And because I'm moving in the Y direction, okay, so I'm moving in the Y direction. I'm not, no, I'm sorry. Let me take that back. I'm moving in the X axis direction, and I want to put that at 8 feet. So I'm going to put 8, and it's in the positive direction. If I was moving to the left, it would be a negative. So I'm going to do 8 feet, tab over to the Y, and make that 0, and enter. And I didn't do something correctly there. Let's try that one more time. Oh, I know I didn't type the at symbol, I believe. I always do that. Okay, so again, linear, one corner to the next corner to get our overall at, okay, at 8 feet, tab 0. There we go. All right, so that gets that side. I'm gonna again do the next layer is gonna, or the next level is gonna be minor or major walls, and then doors and windows. I'm gonna go all the way around doing the same thing. Now, when I get up top, that's when your directions will change a little bit. I'm gonna do an overall, and you see I'm pulling the dimension line up. That is in the Y direction, so that is going to be X0. So again, I type at 0 in the X, tab 8 feet in the Y. So that's in the positive direction for the Y. And then over here on the other side, all right, now for the west side, and this is where in the Cartesian coordinates table that really gets kind of weird, and you have to again just pay attention to which way you're trying to position that dimension line. So again, choosing linear, and here I do not need an overall dimension because I've already got one over on this side. Okay, so what I need here is just the minor or major walls, and I'm going to click on the end. Now I want to go and find the center of this wall. Okay, and then stretch this out, and I'm going to do the shift at symbol. It's going to be a negative 6 feet because I'm going in the negative direction along the x-axis. I'm going to tab over to the y-axis and type 0 and enter. Again, activate, hover, continue dimension, and just go down and get the centers of all of your other walls. And it didn't snap. Okay. All right, I'll have to go back and repair that. And I do not know why I keep getting this dimension right there, because I don't need it. I don't want it for anything. I don't remember clicking there. Okay, so let's try that again. Hover, continue, find the center, and it is kind of guesswork. It shouldn't be. Okay, we should get that exactly in the center, in which I should have left some the lines there and cleaned those joining lines up at a different point in my work. Okay, and then of course here I'm just going to get the end there and the end there. All right, so that is a major wall dimensioning. Now to fix things like this right here, I'm just going to click And then I'm going to click on the grip and move it back. I might have to move it more than once because there is more than one line there. Okay, so I got that one moved back. Okay, so I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to do the same thing again. Click on the grip, move it back to the line, come out here and click on the other line that underlies that and move that out just like so. All right, everything else should be fine. Okay, so that would be on that side, the major walls, and any windows would be on the next line if I had them. But anyway, hopefully this was good for you, that this explained everything for you, and that you're able to fully dimension your residence. Again, you have all three lines on the front or the south side of the overall, and then the major walls, and then doors and windows. Over here on the right side, same thing, overall, major walls, and then doors and windows. On the back and on the west side, we really just need, so I really don't even need that overall right there because I've already got it down here. But I do need my major walls and my doors and windows. Over here, major walls, doors and windows. Okay, so if you have any questions, just ask.